all the labels like a Saregama, T Series, they own everything. They own the underlying works and they own the sound recording. Whereas in the West, most labels only own the masters, and the publishing often was retained by the artist or managed by a publisher.
What is the TAM for music? Like, how much comes from YouTube? How much comes from Spotify?
Shan once sang for me for 50,000. I remember once Shreya, I paid her only some 40,000. And they didn't care. They were like, yeah, we love the song. Aap jo do, I have no problem. Even on Arijit saying very affordable folks. But otherwise, fundamentally, 80 to 90% income सबका live event से ही आता है.
Gaurav, welcome to the Founder Thesis podcast. You've had a very fascinating journey. You did an MBA from the number one B school in India, IIM Ahmedabad. But instead of opting for placements, you decided to pursue your passion. You, in a way, joined the creator economy, if I can use that overused term. You became a musician, singer, director, and now you're an entrepreneur in the same space. Um, I am fascinated about how the world of music works. How does a person who's thinking of taking music as a career actually make money, actually make wealth? So these thoughts must have crossed your mind when you were doing an MBA, because you would have learned to look at things from an analytical angle. So tell me about what was going through your mind when you were doing your MBA from IIM Ahmedabad.
Sure, Akshay. First of all, thanks for having me here. Lovely to be on this podcast with you. And I'd like to begin by saying I wish the creator economy was a term when I graduated, so that a lot more people could have understood what is the ecosystem that I wanted to be a part of back then. When I graduated from IIM Ahmedabad in 2006, there was no creator industry as such. Yes, the music industry was definitely there, and it was very different back then compared to what it is now. So we are talking of close to 19, 20 years ago when there was no YouTube, no Spotify. So it was a very old school industry, Akshay, where you needed to have an album deal with a record label in order to be considered even credible enough for someone to take seriously, right? I fell in love with music during engineering, and that was the time when I was very clear that I will pursue this as a career. I definitely wanted to do an MBA, and when I got into IIM Ahmedabad, honestly, nothing really changed as far as my decision was concerned. Uh, to answer your question about did you think about how to make wealth in the industry, I'll give a very honest answer that at that point in time, I think I was probably about maybe 20 years old, when I decided to do this, 2021. And more than the money angle at that point in time, it was more about can I get a chance to express my musicianship to the world. It was really, there was no thought about what kind of money will I end up making in the industry. And I can say this even after 19 years of being in the industry today, when, at Hoopr we meet so many youngsters, anyone of that age, the key thing that they want is for them to be discovered and heard. So my intent during IIM Ahmedabad was how do I understand this industry better? Because as I said, it was an old school industry. If you had to get a label deal, how do I get to know that side of the world better? Can I get myself, a label deal? Can I put out a good album? So if I were to think strictly of those days, it was restricted only to that. Can I make good songs? And the entire money and the wealth angle gradually started coming in as I got into the industry.
Indian Idol had come out by that time, right? People were looking at music as a career path. Though I guess it was largely understood, very few will actually make it. It's like becoming a Bollywood actor, right? I guess it's as hard, and it would be as lopsided that maybe only 1% of people who want to get in actually make something out of themselves in the field. Um, so, what was uh, like what was your path? So you are fresh out of IIM Ahmedabad, and there is no self-publishing. So that self-publishing industry today of YouTube, Spotify has allowed more people to access this as a career, but there's no self-publishing at that time. So, what was your path?
It's great you mentioned Indian Idol, because this was back in, I think, 2004 or early 2005, when the Indian Idol frenzy had sort of gripped the country. And folks like us who were inside the IIM Ahmedabad campus were completely insulated from that, because there was no time in the first year. You barely have time to do anything except study. So I used to get calls from my sister sometimes saying, "You have no idea what's going on, and people are going crazy about this." And my first brush with the industry actually came, Akshay, even before I graduated. So I actually interned with a music label when I was studying at IIM Ahmedabad. So I'll touch upon that. Uh, I realized pretty early on that music labels will not visit the campus to recruit. And if I were to get into this industry, it might help if I work in this industry a little. I get to meet the people who work with the labels. So I decided to be proactive about it, and I started sending emails to label managing directors, CEOs, or senior folks. One such email was sent by me, I remember, in 2000, early 2005, to a gentleman named Mr. Arun Agarwal. He was the president of Times of India. And I told him that I'm a first year student at IIM Ahmedabad. I am interested in becoming an artist. And for the same, I want to work with a label to understand, how do the mechanics of the industry work. And in all probability, you're not going to be coming to our campus. So I'm writing to you to check if, I could get an internship. If yes, then I will opt out of my summer placements process. It'll save me the time. And I got a reply within a few hours saying you're hired. And immediately, his EA, yeah, I think he was so impressed with the email. His EA reached out, and then they connected me to Times Music, where I got my internship. So in 2005, I did a 2 month internship with Times Music. Why I linked it to the Indian Idol story is because it was such a beautiful internship where they structured, the 8 weeks that I spent there. They sort of divided 2 weeks of my time sequentially between four different divisions. So the first was understanding how albums are made, what is the A&R, which is the artists and repertoire division of a music label, understanding a little about publishing, masters, and copyright. Then in the second phase, I was asked to go out into the market and check how the CDs are stacked in various shops. In the third phase, I was asked to interact with different artists. And in the fourth phase, I was introduced to brand solutions. So when I went out to the market, Abhijit Sawant's Indian Idol album, Mohabbatein Lutaunga, was pretty much all over the Planet M's and so on. And it was very exciting to see how there is a science to retail at that point in time. I also had this dream that, okay, when I make my album someday, मेरा भी ऐसे ही CDs होगा, मेरा भी ऐसे ही standy होगा Planet M में. And so I got out of IIM Ahmedabad, you could say, when in 2006, not without a complete. It was not like I've got out and now I have no idea what the industry is. I think those 8 weeks proved to be very useful, and something I advise musicians even today, that try to study a lot about the business, try to meet folks. But yes, when I graduated, I was still as new to the industry. The only thing I had was this little internship that I had done, and my IIM Ahmedabad degree and a guitar in hand. Yeah, that was how it was.
Tell me about this, how this industry works. A music label is what? It is a distribution company. Does it also put in the capital to create an album? How does a music label work? What is a music label?
Definitely. The music label is definitely an entity which is expected to put in the capital. So what they do is they scout artists and talent who they are interested in signing, or whose albums or records they're interested in putting out. In certain cases, especially today, because the cost of making music has really reduced, there are a lot of labels that expect you to make an album and come to them, especially because the supply has really gone up today. But in the previous times, and today, even today, with you could say larger artists, Labels are the ones who will front the money to create the album. They have a division called A&R, which is artists and repertoire. The job of these A&R folks is to keep scouting new talent. They attend live events, they attend um, festivals, they will keep looking at Instagram and YouTube today to spot who is the next big thing and where is the action happening, where is the next pop culture moment happening. And it is their job to bring in these artists into the label fold. And what happens then is the label fronts these advances, or you could say fronts the money. And in most cases, what tends to happen is that the product that is made, which is that album or that song, the ownership then remains with the label. So what happens in India is labels are definitely very much interested in collating all the ownership of the music that is made. And maybe in a little while, we'll also talk about how these two rights in music have a bit of a bifurcation. There is a sound recording copyright and there is a publishing copyright. But essentially, a label wants to own both of these copyrights. At this point, I'll also touch upon the fact that in India, film music is very, very prevalent and very popular. It has always been popular. And even there, a label acquires the entire right to a film soundtrack. So when you think of labels like a Saregama or a T Series, Tips, over the years they have managed to acquire the copyrights of multiple different film albums. In many cases, they will pay an upfront amount to the producer saying, okay, you've made this album, it has 8 songs. I think the music director is big, I will recoup my money. Here is X crore to buy out the copyrights. And in certain cases, it could be a revenue share saying, okay, you're a new movie or a very new artist. I'm not sure if I'm going to recover, but I'll release your album and I will own the copyright. I'm not paying you anything today, but it's going to be a revenue share. Now, you touched upon a very important point, which is distribution. In the olden times, Akshay, the label's biggest strength was distribution. Like a T series in Saregama had the muscle to put out a CD in the remotest town and city, and which is why everyone flocked to them, saying, "Please make sure my CD is available in every city in India. It is played on every TV channel. It is you've bought the TV spots and ad spots, radio spots." Today, that dynamic has changed a fair bit. So today, because Spotify and YouTube have become massive, artists are able to access distribution nowadays without a label necessarily. And what has emerged is intermediaries who call themselves distributors. So let's say if Gaurav is a new artist who's putting out a song, instead of directly going to a label today, I could go to a distributor like a Believe or a TuneCore, and there are many such companies. And they will put your song on every streaming platform like a Spotify, Apple Music, a Ghana, and so on. And they will collect the royalties on your behalf and share it with you.
How much do
So
they take? What is their take rate?
there are two models that distributors work. Either it is an upfront payment per year for a song, which could range between say 500 rupees to 1,000 rupees to distribute a song per year, and you have to keep paying them a yearly fee, and they will give you 100% of the royalties. Or there is another option where you don't pay anything, but they would probably take about 15 or 20% of what your song makes. And different artists choose different models.
B-
Uh,
Why would
so to
you
sum
give up
up,
15% as opposed to 1,000 rupees? I mean, it sounds
there are a
unless
lot
you
of
have a lot of
artists.
songs. Uh,
Yes, so there are a lot of artists who release multiple songs a year and feel that instead of 500 and 1,000 multiplied by 10, 20 upfront, and plus don't forget that the next year when they release another 10 to 20 songs, they will have to again pay 500 or 1,000 for the previous year's songs to keep them. So what tends to happen is new artists typically who don't know how much they're going to make initially go with a revenue share deal. The revenue share deal also sort of incentivizes, or at least in theory is supposed to incentivize the platform to push those particular songs so that they have a theory that if you make money, I make money. And many a times you will see them saying, okay, I'll push it to streaming platforms and playlists. So the artist has a choice, and in my experience, I've seen that most new artists start with the revenue share model. Eventually, when they get a bit of a handle on how much their catalog or their songs are making, they switch to a simple pay per song kind of a model and keep all the royalties for themselves.
and so distribution, you said labels used to be important when it was physical distribution, cassettes or CDs, which today is not their main value add. So what are the other value adds of a label? They capital distribution, what else?
Quite a few things. I think labels bring an army of people who are experts who can work on the artist's behalf. I think the first thing a label can do is just help the artist enhance the production of the album, because they could bring in good folks to work with the artist as opposed to he or she being by themselves and working with a group of friends, right? So they could probably rope in a good producer, good studios, mixing, mastering engineers. Sometimes they are able to, using their network, rope in another artist for collaboration, which often helps in discovery of new artists. For example, there is a new artist called Char Diwari, great artist and has been doing good stuff, but recently collaborated with Raftar. So that song has now blown up, and collaborations often are things that labels can bring to the table. You would see that, say, an Anuv Jain collaborated with an AP Dhillon, or say an Ed Sheeran collaborates with an Arijit. A lot of this back end logistics is coordinated by the label folks. The third thing that a label even today has is a lot of muscle when it comes to pushing and promoting songs on streaming platforms. So if you think of platforms like a Spotify, majority of the songs would come from a T series or a UMG or Universal and others. So sometimes a label has the ability to request the platform that, hey, I'm giving you all of these big blockbusters, but in turn, why don't you also promote some of my upcoming talent? And I think that is a very good and powerful barter that they are able to do. Lastly, I would say that they are also able to at times get placements for the artists in terms of placing them at the right festivals. When I signed up with Universal Music in 2008, they were able to get me a lot of shows in the beginning, which sort of got my career kick started. They placed me on MTV back then as, on MTV Select or Channel V Artist of the Month. I would have probably not been able to do that. And even today, trying to get an artist a good placement in a big festival, or even let's say maybe getting a brand on board, are things that a label can do. So for labels also, it's equally important to work with artists who are that passionate and motivated about their craft, and they also have a roster of large artists. So I would say that these 3 to 4 areas are where labels can add value to an artist's life.
Okay. Is there also my knowledge is based on more of Hollywood stuff, but in most Hollywood actors have like an agent who negotiates deals with them. So is the same thing here that music artists have an agent who does all this work for them? And
Yes, there are. Once an artist becomes, I would say, एक बार वो artist पैसे बनाने लगा ना, then you require a manager to manage different facets of your work. I first got a manager in 2014, when what had happened was I started doing mashups on YouTube of Hindi and English songs. And many of these mashups started becoming very popular. I started getting a lot of inquiries for live events and concerts. Now, what tends to happen is, say, 1 out of 3 inquiries are meaningful and translates into business. 2 out of 3 may not work out for monetary reasons, say the budgets are not matching or their expectation is different. So you start gradually requiring somebody to front all of this. And I've seen that mostly in artists' lives, the manager steps in when they start making money, and that is typically after they get their first hit and the live events begin. Um, and it's very much needed, because I have seen artists who try to manage themselves often get very emotional. They make a mess out of it because they are only the talent, right? So everything is then taken very personally, and a manager can front it. So just like Hollywood has the agent system, in India we call it the manager system. I think till about 2020, 21, just as less as 4 to 5 years ago, managers were restricted to folks who were only handling the live touring and the live shows business. But today, there is a new crop of managers that have come that are actually looking at themselves as a partner in the artist journey, rather than just कि आपने आर्टिस्ट का एक शो करवा दिया, आपने 15-20% commission liya. Today an artist manager, or the good evolved ones, you often see that they have studied music business in schools. They are looking at the artist as a product, and of course they are also invested creatively in that artist's emotions and journey. And they're also thinking a little 360, that how could I position this artist well, what are the right kind of placements I could get them in festivals and events, how could we make more money from live, how should we price the artist, what kind of collaborations would enhance their career. So abhi jaake, and they are also taking a commission then, not just from live but also the artist's recorded revenues from publishing also and some other spaces. So the music management space is evolving very rapidly right now, and it's a very, very exciting space.
Okay, I guess earlier the labels used to do the non-live part of it. The label, in a way, was like the manager. The non-live part, the recorded part, the label would be handling it entirely, and you would have a relationship with someone in the music label. The music labels which were prominent back then in 2006, 7, are they still prominent today? How is the label business? Has it shaken up after self-publishing?
They're still very prominent. I wouldn't say that any of them sort of just fell off. I'll break this down into two parts. One, are they still around and how are they doing? And the second is probably how is their relevance looking as we sort of move forward. Yes, I think almost all the labels that were there when I joined the industry are pretty much still very big. I would say T Series, Saregama, folks like Tips, they're all still very much around. Universal Music, Sony Music, and so on. Times Music also. Uh, and there is a reason for this, Akshay. What actually has happened is that their investments into music acquisition, right from, say, with a Saregama, you could say from the 50s or 60s, उन्होंने music खरीदना शुरू किया. First as HMV and then Saregama, right? So they have a wealth of about 5 odd decades of music that they own. The same is the case with even a T series. I think from the 90s when Gulshan Kumar entered the industry, 90s से लेके they have massive music all the way from 2000s and even up to 2020. UMG and Sony are a different beast because they have not just a lot of Indian music, they also have the might of all the catalogs from the West. So they are sort of large money. They're probably the largest labels in the world: UMG, Sony, and Warner. It's like a trio of three big boys. Um, so they are all very much around. And what happened was that in India, when the Spotify's and the YouTubes became really big, and even an Instagram became big, all of them realized that for me to sustain, I need the music of all of these players. I can't not have a T series catalog. I cannot not have a Kishore Kumar, collection or a Rafi collection, right? So in exchange of this, because these were highly funded and high growth companies, labels managed to squeeze out a huge amount of money as minimum guarantees from all of these platforms, because of which they are extremely cash rich. As in, I would say that the free cash flow in these labels almost would be about 60 or 70% of their top lines, and they're sitting on a lot of disposable cash at any point in time. You may also want to note that many of these folks became production houses. T Series became a production house. Many of them got into this entire space, right? So they have sustained and thrived. There's also a lot of new entrants that came in India. So there is a French company called Believe that came in, tech-led company, became big, became one of those distributors and intermediaries that I spoke of, raised a fair bit of capital, started acquiring catalogs. So in India, they acquired Venus. You would have heard of Venus, and they acquired that catalog. They acquired a South catalog as well. Warner Music has made its entry in India in a big way. And now you're seeing newer folks coming in, like a Pop Arabia recently introduced Pop India and so on. So new folks have come in. Regional labels have become very, very big. They were absolutely unknown, but now you'll see them also having 5 million, 10 million, 20 million subscribers. But yes, going forward in terms of relevance, today when a new artist comes into the picture, I don't think that they think of a label at all, at least for the first few years. They are very happy to put out their music independently. uh, a lot of these songs break out and become very big on YouTube and Spotify. Even these platforms, in a way, have started shaping their algorithm to favor these independent artists. It works for them very well. One is there is a huge supply on that side. Two, the clout of the label sort of goes down a little. So they definitely, you will see all of them support the independent artists. So labels right now are at a very interesting or a delicate stage where they are trying to understand, okay, I have this monstrous catalog, it has served me well. How do I scale this? How do I still maintain my relevance? And how do I still exercise control over the music ecosystem? I think for the next 5 to 10 years, they will still have a lot more control. Uh, and eventually, then it will, I would say, tilt in the favor of the independents.
So, uh, India is unique in the sense that most music is Bollywood focused, whereas in West it is the independent artists. I remember reading a lot about Taylor Swift's battle for the master copy of
Yes, the
her
master.
first album. Can you explain what is that master copy? And then you said there is a sound recording copyright and there is a publishing copyright, and then there is this master copy battle which I read about. What? So in terms of copyrights, who owns the music? Who gets to earn from it in perpetuity? What is that like in India today versus what is that like in the West, and how has that evolved?
Okay, so in this section, then I'll get just a little technical, and this will help. So when a song is made, before you get into the recording studio and before you record anything on the microphone also, it begins with the process of a composer sitting with his or her guitar or a keyboard. Sometimes there's a lyricist who joins in, or two, three people in a room sitting and making a song. And the song gets created in a manner where two fundamental components exist. One is the tune or the composition, and one is the lyrics. So the law has shaped in such a manner where even before a song is recorded, just the fact that you've put a tune and lyrics in place and you've created a song, that entire bit is given one copyright. And that is known as the underlying works. So you've created, let's say today I make a song called Main Dhoondne Ko Zamane Mein. I have made a tune, I have got a lyricist who came, he wrote the lyrics. Now the song exists in the form of underlying works, and a copyright is established which rests with me, the composer, and the lyricist. Now we go into a studio, we call musicians, we sort of orchestrate or arrange the song, we record the instruments. I call, say, Arijit Singh, and Arijit records the vocals. And now what is created is what is known as a recording, okay, or a sound recording. And in the parlance of the music industry, it is also known as the master. Okay, so that is the master, which is typically a wave file, which is now, you could say, depicting that particular song in a recorded format. Now, both of these have their own copyright. So there is the sound recording copyright, and then there is the underlying works copyright. Now, let's say um, I wish to create another version of Main Dhoondne Ko Zamane Mein in a different set of instruments with a different singer. Because I and the lyricist are the owners of the underlying works, I have all the freedom to approach different recording artists to create versions. So you'll see in the West a lot of songs, whether it's the Beatles songs or Coldplay songs, there are a lot of versions that are officially created with new sound recordings with different artists. But then the question arises that each time somebody wants the permission to create these new versions, how many times will they keep reaching out to the composer and the lyricist, right? So, to make life easy for them, what entered into the picture is an entity called the publisher. And the publisher said that, hey, I am going to manage your underlying works. And it's my job to try and make as many sound recordings of your song, maybe make it in other languages so that you keep getting money. So the
So
sound
what's an
record,
example of
yeah,
publisher?
a
Some names?
publisher. So all of the large labels have, Sony Music has a publishing division, Universal has a publishing division. In India, Turnkey Music is a publisher. Hoopr itself publishes. So we sort of control or administer these underlying works, and these underlying works and sound recordings are now individually making money for each of the entities. So I'll explain how as well. Um, in the West, the artists were really smart. They did one thing. They kept the publishing rights to themselves. They said that, hey, गाना मैंने लिखा या compose मैंने किया, तो ये राइट्स मेरे हैं. एट बेस्ट आई विल गेट अ पब्लिशर टू एडमिनिस्टर दिस फॉर मी. And the record label, which, as I said, pays for the recording, they give them those master rights, saying chalo ye recording you own, you make all the money that the recording will make on radio and selling the CDs and cassettes and so on. But they smartly kept the publishing rights to themselves or administered by their publisher. In India, unfortunately, what happened is, because we only had a Bollywood culture, our entire system was a film producer saying, look, I have engaged this music director in a work for hire kind of a format. आपने ये गाने मेरे behest पे बनाए हैं, so I will own the publishing also and the master also. And the music directors gave it away. They looked at themselves more as contractors कि भाई चलो आपकी अमानत है. They sort of gave it away. And then the film producer eventually sold or gave the rights to the label. So you will see that in India, all the labels like a Saregama, T Series, they own everything. They own the underlying works and they own the sound recording. Whereas in the West, most labels only own the masters, and the publishing often was retained by the artist or managed by a publisher. This is a very fundamental difference between the two. And now I'll tell you why. For every 100 rupees a song makes, this is a rough math, but you could say give and take, about 87 to 88 rupees are paid to the master, and about 12 to 13 rupees are paid towards the underlying works. So now in the West, because the artist owns the underlying works, उसको 100 रुपए पे 13 रुपए मिलते जा रहे हैं, right? Whereas in India, all of the 100 is sort of kept by the label itself, and the artist really did not get anything from any sales of cassette CDs and so on, unless Akshay they had the clout to negotiate something with the label. वो आर्टिस्ट बहुत लिमिटेड है. ओनली अ लता मंगेशकर, ए आर रहमान एंड probably one or two may have been able to tell a label, नहीं boss, I will take 20% of all your revenues, but it's very rare. So
It's
in
like
India now, yeah,
I believe like Amir Khan takes a percentage of the money which a movie makes, but he's the only
yes,
one who can do that. Everyone else gets a salary, so it's similar.
it's exactly. So when I made a मैं ढूंढने को ज़माने में, I was the composer. Say somebody wrote the lyrics, we got Arijit Singh to sing. I was paid a fee by the film producer. He told me, "Ye lo, this is your total fee. Isme you please manage everything. Your job is to give me the final song. I will own the underlying works and the master." And then eventually they gave it to a T series. So today that song, while I have composed and made it, the rights completely belong to a T series. Thankfully, in India, there is a copyright society called the IPRS, Indian Performing Rights Society, and they tried to champion the cause of the composer and author. And today, because of them, you could say that on 100 rupees, eventually the composer and author get about 3 to 4 rupees each. So there is something that is now trickling back to them. And prior to that, it was zero. Now, in Taylor Swift's case, uh, because the label would have paid for those masters, she would have given the rights to those to the label. Eventually the label would have recovered it, probably 100x 200x recover kar liya hoga, and today she would be like, hey listen, I want those masters back, and she has the money to buy it off. So she would have done a deal with them saying, now I want to own these. It does happen, by the way, sometimes where you sort of buy, it's like a startup founder probably buying his shares back from investors saying, today, I want to completely own my startup. It's literally like that. So today she's in full control of her. There is also, by the way, conversely, a lot of the old songwriters are actually selling their rights. So you see Pink Floyd, you will see Dead Mouse, Justin Bieber. Many of them have actually sold off their entire publishing rights for like a 300 million or a 500 million. They were like, "Chalo yaar, paise le lete hain. Let's move out." So all of these deals are happening in the industry as we speak.
Okay, I just want to clarify some terms which are interchangeable. Publishing right is the same thing as the right on the underlying work.
Yes, the publishing right is basically the right to administer or control or manage the underlying works. That's right.
Okay, and the sound recording right is the same as owning the master copy.
Yes. So if I say that I own the publishing or the publishing is 100% with me, then you sort of own the underlying works. Or you could say that I just administer these underlying works. Similarly, with sound recording, If you say that I own the sound recording, then you own the masters. Basically, it's your property. And if you say that no, I am just sort of handling it, you could administer it for a while.
So administering means you take a fees and pass on the revenue to the artists, basically.
Yes. Now, if we look at Hooper, now Hooper and Hooper Smash. So on Hooper Smash, we have songs that are created or owned by Yashraj Films, Merchant Records, many other labels and artists. Their sound recordings are made available on the platform for brands to license and use in their reels and so on. So here we have the right to only sort of handle or administer them for a certain use case. The ownership rests with the labels, and they have just given us the right to sort of license it for a synchronization purpose.
Okay, okay, got it. Okay, so you said 2008 you got a deal with Universal. So that's when you actually started earning a living. Like before that, you must have been just doing gigs and getting paid something, or being called to like contract as a contract worker in a way, like perform the guitar for the song or something like that. Like how did your journey go?
No, no, no. I was a singer. I was not being called by anyone for any sessions work. In Mumbai, there are monsters sitting who are incredibly good. So nobody was calling me for anything. In fact, I just spent money to get my album deal. So on one side, I engaged a very good music producer and I started recording my album. And at that time in 2007, it cost me about 8 to 10 lakh rupees to make that entire album and so on. I had some money saved. I had borrowed money from my parents, from my girlfriend at that time who had got a job in an investment bank. Uh, and everywhere
I am
I
Ahmedabad
cobbled.
girlfriend, I assume.
Yes, I cobbled together that money. I also started approaching a lot of brands and colleges saying, look, I'll do a show for you in as less as 20,000 rupees. I used to make a small loss on every show. So I had very good musicians, but the show was excellent. So while I made a loss, it's like a burn model. In the first few months, I was, loss making on all the shows, but the quality was good. So I started getting more and more shows. And by the time I approached Universal Music for a deal, by the way, before I approached Universal, I was rejected by almost 4 or 5 labels, including Times Music, where I did my internship, which came as a huge shock to me. It's like I interned there hoping that they will welcome me, but it doesn't work like that. So I faced a lot of rejections from Times Music, Sony Music. Then I made this album. I started doing a lot of these shows, and I put together an entire kit where, okay, I'm a performing artist. I have a good sounding album. My song College Days was also very friendly for college students. So it was a little bit of an understanding of my audience. When I went to Universal Music, I went to them with a good sounding album. The 2 weeks that I spent in Times Music approaching brands also came in really handy because I was approaching a lot of brands requesting them, Ki, yaar, I have made a very good album. It is going to be a hit with college students. Can you please fund me? And mostly all said no, but eventually Colgate Max Fresh said yes. I think this is a very good song. What will you give me? So I told him there's a new platform called YouTube that's emerging, so I will embed your ad in, before my video, and I will also give you 2 concerts. So they gave me 8 lakh rupees back then, and the album fell in place. I was able to repay some of the folks that I had taken money from, and my career began. So मैंने बहुत पापड़ बेले to get my album deal. It was very tough. And then for 3 years, when the album came out, I started doing shows. Gradually, I started earning
This
more money.
album, did you own the rights to it, or you sold it to UMG? Like UMG
I,
bought it
I
from you?
gave it to UMG. But having said that, there is a probability that that deal was for a certain time period after which the masters come back to me. So right now I'm in that phase where could I get back the masters of that particular album. Having said that, उस टाइम पे तो एक्साइटमेंट यही थी कि यार आई वांट टू गेट अ डील सो उनकी जगह कोई और भी होता है, I would have given it away. So I gave it away, and they managed me for 3 years. As I said, they sort of put their muscle behind me to make me visible. That Planet M thing came true. That I went to Planet M's, my standee was there, my CDs were there, and they got me shows, they got me TV placements. But income, all honestly, Akshay, for me really began in 2012. Like 4 years after graduation is when I really started earning money. I think for 4 years it was not, whatever I got, it was either paid to my fellow musicians or reinvested in making songs. So I had to be very patient for any kind of serious money to come in till about 2012, 2013.
What was the source of the income from 12, 13? Like,
In 2011, I put out a mashup of a Lionel Richie song and a Mohit Chauhan song. It's still there on YouTube. And I called it Synchronicity. And because by this time I had started getting Bollywood films, my circle of musicians had become very professional and my own thought process had evolved a lot.
you were
So
getting Bollywood films as a singer.
I got in Bollywood as a music director. So
Okay.
after I did college days, the album for 2, 3 years, I did shows. I felt that I need to evolve a lot more. I started hanging out with folks who were doing Bollywood films, and I started studying music a lot more seriously than I ever had. So I started studying the structures of, why certain songs become big, how are they orchestrated, how are they arranged, how do the singers sing these kind of difficult tunes. I started studying even the craft of songwriting at that point in time. For a brief period, I took a workshop on Western classical. I started studying Hindustani classical, which I went on to study for almost 10 years after that. So I became a very serious musician, I think, after 2009 or 10. Prior to that, I could say I was that guy from college with a guitar, thinking that, yaar, main stud hoon, अच्छे गाने बनाता हूँ and so on. But coming to Mumbai and hanging out with the real cats here, got me deeply excited. And I became a student. And then my thing was, okay, how do I back bigger projects? So I started making songs which are sounding more evolved, and I started meeting producers, directors. I played them my tunes. The first film I got was a very small project which was produced by Vikram Bhatt. The film is called Lanka, and it stars Manoj Bajpayee. Film based in UP, very hard hitting movie. And I had started getting into Hindustani classical at that point in time. So it was a very beautiful project that came my way. I did two songs in this movie. One was a song based on Rag Charukeshi, which was sung by Shreya Ghoshal, and one was a song based on Rag Jog, which was sung by KK. And मेरा बहुत level evolve हो रहा था when I was working with all of these musicians and singers. In parallel, I also got you could say, a fun project directed by Shirish Kundar, starring Akshay Kumar and Sonakshi. This film is called Joker. And I did an item song in that movie, which was sung by Sunidhi Chauhan. And it's a very interesting story that Shirish, he told me that, look, I'm not going to pay you anything, but you tell me whichever artist you want, whichever musician you want, I'll pay them. तो तू कुछ पैसा नहीं बनाएगा इसमें, but I'll give you whoever you want to. So I said, okay, then in that case, my wish list is Sunidhi Chauhan. My wish list is that the rhythms be recorded by Ustad Tawfiq Qureshi and his entire ensemble. He said, done. And we recorded everything at Yashraj Film Studios. I had a rhythm section of 15 people. Those experiences made me rapidly gallop as a musician. Like suddenly I was working with the best and the finest folks. So but the one thing that had happened in this period was all the action has shifted to other musicians and I was not in the front. Like I was not singing. College days, the album that I did, all my fans were there for me. So मेरे अंदर there was this thing that, यार, I need to also sing something. I can't just stop being the front man. So I created a band called Synchronicity, and I started making mashups of English and Hindi songs. And luckily, the first mashup only went viral in 2011 and 12. We're talking 13 years ago. So at that time, these mashups and all were a very rare concept. And immediately, I started getting calls for live events. That Mr. Anil Agarwal of the Vedant Group has a large event. He would like you to perform in that event. And these were all very sophisticated folks because they could see my background that this guy's from IIM Ahmedabad, sings in Hindi, English, doing movies. And wahan pe I started getting paid a few lakh rupees per show. So for me, it was like, okay, with music direction, I am satisfying my joy of making films, working with the likes of a Sonu Nigam, Sunidhi, Shreya. But my cash flow is coming from all of these events that I'm doing at, it could be even shadi shows kiye maine for large folks. I did large corporate shows for folks like Standard Chartered, and we may not realize, but ye events Akshay's happen throughout the year in India, and it's a good source of income because I was a singer. So yeah, it took me at least 2012 or 2013 to get to that stage जहाँ पे okay ये पैसा आ रहा है. उस वक्त my in-laws also said चलो अभी लड़का काबिल हो गया है. Yeah, let's say yes. So I got married also in 2014. So those are fun years. Those are great years where I was enjoying my film work, my mashups, and also my live events.
I want to ask you a couple of things. What is the difference between a music director, a composer? Like, uh, just help me understand these roles when you're making a song.
Sure. See, a composer is somebody who is essentially going to craft or compose the melody or the tune. For example, um, if I make a song like, let's say, प्यार वो नहीं जो सबको दिखे, प्यार वो ना 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 ने, something like that. Okay. Now this has a tune, la 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 la. So as a composer, it's my job to craft out this entire tune of the song. Now this tune is incomplete without some lyrics in it, right? Now if I just do la 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 la, it may not trigger that emotion. But if I put in some lyrics, कि प्यार वो नहीं जो सबको दिखे, प्यार वो निशान जो दिल पे बने, now I know that it's coming together as a song. प्यार वो नहीं जो सबको दिखे, like that. So a composer sits with a lyricist typically, and they both together craft out the song. So you will see right from the olden times, whether it's a Shankar Jaikishan and a Shailendra, or let's say R.D. Burman and Anand Bakshi, they would be sitting and jamming like this and creating the song. गाना बन गया, underlying works तैयार हो गए. Now you want to go to the studio and record it. Here is where the composer in most cases steps up and starts recruiting some musicians, arrangers, and says that okay, now I want to. मेरा vision है that the song starts with a particular set of violins or a guitar strum or a guitar riff, then goes into X, Y, and Z. So he's giving the musical direction, and he's recruiting different types of technicians for fulfilling his vision. Just like in a film, a director is roping in a cameraman, editor, lights person, makeup artist, all of those music directors to fulfill his vision. In India, a music director recruits multiple different people like arrangers, instrumentalists, and so on, and even singers. And then the sound recording is made. So in India, a music director typically refers to the person who has not just made the tune or the composition, but has also right till the end worked on every phase and given the final product. A lyricist is somebody who writes the lyrics. Over the last 8 to 10 years, a new definition called music producer has emerged, where uh, many a times what happens is, suppose I make this tune that प्यार वो नहीं जो सबको दिखे. Now, when I want to make the sound recording, I go to a specialist and tell him that, yeah, I have made this song. Why don't you put the music together for this entire bit? And you could say, then in that case, I am a product manager and he's the CTO sort of a thing, where I give him the entire PRD and the definition, and he sits and, or alone or with a team writes the code. So those folks are folks working on a laptop today. They are the ones actually playing out the music, and they call themselves music producers. The playback singer typically is in India a person who comes, is given कि ये गाना है, they go behind the mic and they sing it. They are often not seen in front of the screen right from the times of Lata Mangeshkar, Rafi, Kishore, all the way to even an Arijit Singh. In a way, they have been playback singers. And then finally, what happens is when all the instruments are recorded, the singer has recorded the vocals, there is a certain engineering component that comes to make all of these different instruments sound cohesive. It should sound, you could say, uh, similar on different sets of speakers. It shouldn't be kahin pe X sunai de raha hai, kahin pe it's jumping out. That entire technical process is called mixing and mastering. And there are engineers, recording engineers or sound engineers, sorry, who are specialized in mixing and mastering. The music director has to understand all the different touch points, right from composing the song, working with lyricists, recording the instruments, recording the singers, working with the mixing mastering engineer. And the director also has to understand the nuances of working with a film director, understanding their vision. So it's a complicated role. Many people think that, oh, easy hands, just tune composing. But again, because a lot of startup folks will be watching it, just like a founder has to work not just with his team members but also a board, manage the stakeholder, investor expectations. Similarly, a music director has to manage the film director's expectations, the producer's expectations, and work within budget timeframes and provide quality. तो वैसा टाइप का analogy है. It's a very difficult role, and I would say there are in India folks like Apritam, Vishal Shekhar, Amit Trivedi, Sachin Jigar, who excel at this. They're very good at it. Multiple films are going on at the same time. One more thing I would say, Akshay, is that the music director's role is very challenging in the context of a film, because in a film, every film's texture can be very different, the story can be different, and you have to be able to have the diversity or the breadth, range to make a kawali se leke, an independent song or a classical song. When you are an independent artist, you have all the freedom to do what you want. You're not managing anyone's expectations, and you can stick to one sound and do very well with it. But say somebody like a Shankar Ehsaan Loy will have to make a Kajrare also. They may have to make a Lakshya also, a Wake Up Sid also. So there is a lot of pull that happens as per the demand of the film and the story. Just lastly, for the viewers, there is also another aspect of cinema which requires music, which is the background score. And many times, the music director who makes the song may not be the same person as the one who does the background scores. Background scores are very technical. They require extreme knowledge of storytelling, cinema, and also timelines. And there are experts in the industry who are just incredibly proficient at the art of doing background scores. I would say one of the people who do both very beautifully is Mr. A.R. Rahman. But most others, they have the songs will be done by, say, Preetham, and the background score would be done by somebody else, and so on. So that's how the different nuances of the music industry are shaped.
Yeah, interesting. So typically, a composer and a music director is the same person in most
In
cases.
most cases, yes.
Okay, okay. But this music director is an Indian beast, right? I don't think such a concept exists in the West. Typically, the artist in the West is also the composer, or they work with a music producer, um, something like that, right? I believe Justin Timberlake has this long time collaboration with some producer. I forget the name, but um, and a producer is more of a software guy.
Today, yes. I think till the early 2000s, he was a studio guy working with real, musicians. But post the workstations coming in, a music producer today is a software guy. And yes, you're right that there an artist works with a music producer. They have the term musical director, which often refers to folks who are, orchestrating for a Broadway or something like that, where you sort of direct music. But yes, this music director is a very Indian, you could say, phenomena, very rare.
So, why were you not uh, feeling like music directors don't have fame? Music directors have a lot of fame, right? Like why did you want to also be the front face and have your own band in addition to being I mean, why not just double down and focus on being a music director?
I would have done that. I think had I not been a singer, because I started my career singing all the songs of college days. I also performed them live on stage for 3 years. So there was a strong aspect of singing, performing live, and connecting directly with fans. Had I not been introduced to this, maybe I would have been very happy doing music direction, because it's very satisfying. It's lovely to do that only. But because I had done this, and there is a certain euphoria and a joy that you experience when you are performing
Yeah,
live
there's
to
a
people.
high that you get, I'm
There
sure.
is a high that you get. They love your voice. Plus, because I had done this, I used to keep getting messages saying, "Why aren't you singing? We saw your song with Shreya Ghoshal or whatever, but yeah, why are you not singing?" So I had to do it for my own joy and satisfaction. Two is also there clearly is a demand, so I had to do that. I think that those were the only two reasons, not for any, Kiara. I was not enjoying music direction, so I felt I need to be more famous or anything. I think it was just to fulfill a certain part in me which wanted to connect to my listeners.
Okay. Uh, Typically, like say a top tier talent would, I'm sure, be earning directly from Bollywood, but mid tier talent typically earns more from events, like you mentioned, various kind of shadi corporate events. That's where bulk of the cash flow comes for mid tier talent.
I think that is where the bulk of the cash flow comes for all tiers, even whether it's a Sonu Nigam, Arijit, Shreya, or mid tier. 80 to 90% of the income, Akshay, comes from live events only, because that's a very, very stable form of shows. In fact, today, I think most playback singers don't care about what they are paid to sing a song for a movie. They may even do it for free. You may have read Arijit's recent interview where he says that I don't charge anything really for singing a song. But for his concert, I was aware that he was charging 2 to 4 crore. I recently read an article where he's charging probably 14 crore or something like that. But I'm aware that folks like a Sonu Nigam may be anywhere in the range of 1.2 to 1.5 crore a show, doing easily between 80 to 100 shows a year. Salim Suleiman, most others, even any singer you take, would be doing 50 to 100 shows a year. And that's where the bulk of the income comes for them. I think the money they would be getting from as fees for singing songs would be peanuts compared to that. Even in my experience, when I did movies, not a single large singer ever stressed about how much they're paying me. Shan once sang for me for 50,000. I remember once Shreya, I paid her only some 40,000. And they didn't care. They were like, yeah, we love the song. Aap jo do, I have no problem. And even on Arijit Singh, very affordable folks. Now, of course, many of them have become selective. They may charge more. But otherwise, fundamentally, 80 to 90% income सबका live event से ही आता है. For music directors now, because of the IPRS coming in, I would say that probably, let's say music directors who don't perform as singers, for them, some money would be coming in from their fees as music directors. And they also get a good, sum of money from the IPRS as royalties. So probably for them, it would be 40 to 50% from their fees and royalties. And about 50% वो लोग भी shows करते ही हैं आजकल. You'll see an
Right. Yeah.
Amit
I think
Trivedi
every music
live.
director does perform also.
You
It's
have
just
to.
how
You
they
have to.
earn. They have to. Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting. Um, y- do you need some sort of copyright approval to perform a song? Like you said, for a playback singer, they don't earn from singing and recording, but they earn from live performance. So that song which they're doing live, they will probably not own the right to it. But do they need any approval, or it's like an informal arrangement or something like that?
They do not need any approval as such, but the organizers of the event, they have to procure a certain set of licenses which is mandatory by law. So there are three sets of licenses that you need to procure when you're doing live events. The first is, and again, because we discussed this, when a singer is performing live, say Arijit Singh is doing a concert and he's singing the song, say Chaleya or Hawaii. So he is singing the underlying, he's performing those underlying works, right? So the first license you need to get is the license from the IPRS, which controls these, which gives you the license to use the underlying works anywhere. So you have to mandatorily get the IPRS license. In cases where you're also performing the sound recording, say you're a DJ and you're performing, you're playing the latest hit song, say shaky shaky baja rahe ho aap, so you will need to get the license to play the sound recording as well as the underlying works. So you will have to get the IPRS license, and you also have to get the sound recording license. Now, to get the sound recording license in India, there are two bodies primarily. The first is a body called the PPL, which gives you licenses for about 60-70% of the labels. And then there is another society called Novex that represents the remaining 40% of the labels. So you have to get three licenses typically. If you are having a wedding, say in your family, and a DJ bula rahe ho, you'll have to get PPL, Novex, and IPRS.
Okay. 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 Interesting. And are these licenses expensive? Or what does it cost typically?
No, they are not super expensive. They, I think, start. I'm not sure their tariffs are. Thankfully, all of them have their tariffs mentioned very clearly on their platform. So take my numbers with a pinch of salt. But anywhere between 30,000 to maybe a lakh, depending upon the size of the event. So it could be a ticketed event, non-ticketed event. It could be an event in a tier one city versus say a smaller town. It's is it in a five star? Is it on a certain occasion like New Year's Day? Are you playing the live music in a mall or a salon? And the size of the establishment also matters. So they have very clear tariffs, and you have to get it. I think what people don't realize is that, and I have seen a lot of resistance from people कि यार मेरी शादी में मैं क्या अभी ये you know 50,000 रुपए भर रहा हूँ, and I've already paid the DJ, so why am I paying? But what we don't understand is that just the way you have paid the caterer for a gulab jamun, or you've paid the decor guy for the flowers and so on, the music is helping your ambience, or it's enhancing the quality of your event. Yes, where people have a bit of a problem is I've already paid the DJ, but the DJ is playing songs that belong to other folks. So someone has to pay them. What currently is the lack of awareness in the market is that they feel that the DJ comes bundled with the rights to play, which it doesn't. So the DJ is paid only for his services, or the singer is paid only for their services to sing. But the permission or the license to use all of those underlying works or any sound recording have to be procured from these societies. And that is, I think, a broad awareness which has to be created by these societies, even Hooper. ये हम लोग कर रहे हैं. So yeah, that exists in the
So
market.
this 30,000 to 1 lakh for a single song or for a bunch of
No,
songs?
for the entire event. So look, again, as I said, the actual numbers may be different, but I believe it starts as low as 15-20,000 all the way to maybe 1 or 2 lakh, depending upon the size of the event. But these are blanket licenses, Akshay, where suppose you are
Oh, so
having a
it is for
party.
any song, like
Yes,
any song
because
you
you may
can play.
not know the song a DJ might play, right? He might just play
Okay.
50 songs. So you have taken blanket licenses, and now you have the freedom to sort of
But
perform
how do
whatever.
these societies split up the money then? How will they know which songs were played? Because they have to pass on the revenue.
Yes. So the traditional way has been to sort of synchronize it with, they have hundreds of different touch points that they get data from radio, from streaming, from multiple even live events. What is the sequence of songs played, and basis that, because there exist millions of songs, there is a certain you could say estimation that they make. Even nowadays they have all invested in softwares and tech teams trying to understand what would be a reasonable allocation, because it's physically impossible to track every song in every event. So it's basis a certain mathematics that they have tried to create, or certain model that they have tried to build from all of these different touch points. There is a certain level of investment happening world over in trying to have hardware or tools that tell you exactly what was played in an establishment and so on. And it's very slowly and steadily happening. Uh, Possibly it may happen in a decade all over, where every shop will have to have it and so on. So currently, I think these are models created by them. And it's challenging. When I think of their models, I think it must be a very challenging affair to sort of distribute revenues across all of these to, you know, thousands of artists that might be there.
How how strictly are these copyrights enforced? Like you said, most people would hesitate to spend that extra money in a shadi. Is there any fear? Is there a stake here to make people spend to get the rights, or is it voluntary?
I think till about 2016, 17, it was very, the awareness was extremely low. And I sort of know this because we've been working closely with the IPRS. I have been a member of the IPRS as a composer for the last 14 years. So the challenge was people were refusing to pay. There was a lot of resistance from property owners of, say, malls or even clubs that, nahi yaar, I'm paying the artist, why should I pay you, and so on and so forth. But I think there has been a lot of effort put in by the IPRS, particularly Javed Akhtar Sahab and even Mr. Rakesh Nigam, who heads the IPRS. Javed Sahab has particularly tirelessly crusaded for copyrights to be enforced. And I think in 2014, the entire copyright law got amended to first give the rights to the composers and authors to receive royalty. Basis that strength, I think they increased the feet on the street and they started sending people to multiple different establishments. Uh, Initially, I know that even with Hooper, we face this thing that pehle pyar se samjhana padta hai, and then if you don't, then sometimes you have to tell them that hey, it's the law, right? And that's typically when people part with the money saying okay chalo, so but one thing that they have done over the last, I would say, 6 to 8 years is having multiple people in different cities creating strong relationships with the venues. So today, if let's say I have a private function in a Taj or a St. Regis, the hotel staff will tell me that you have to mandatorily take this, otherwise this event cannot happen, because otherwise they could more fall under the radar. Like recently, I helped a friend organize a concert at the Royal Opera House, and one of the absolutely mandatory things from the Royal Opera House, apart from things like say your fire services or an ambulance, was also the licenses. Like ये नहीं लोगे तो हम concert करने ही नहीं देंगे आप. So they had to buy the licenses, and same for now. Lot of venues, I think a very smart thing could be to make these venues as your partners, right? Where it's in their interest to also enforce. So I think most of these bodies have grown in the last 2 to 3 years or 5 years, where clearly they have done something right. Just look at the IPRS. I think they were at probably about 40 to 50 crore in collection 3 to 4 years ago. I think they have finished FY25 at about 780 crore. So it's jumped more than 15x. And as members of the IPRS, we see a direct connect with the amount of money we receive. So they are doing something right, but I think we are at the tip of the iceberg. I can tell you this because we are in a similar business of licensing. Only our difference is we operate in the digital space, but you have to really work hard, and it's also a very patient effort. You can't hold somebody's neck and do it. You have to trigger something in them saying नहीं ये है, ये mandatory है.
Hmm. It's a lot
um,
like combating software piracy, basically. Like a
exactly,
mix of
exactly.
education and sending legal notices and things like
Yes,
that.
yes.
Okay.
So it takes time to sort of show results. You have to be very patient, but eventually you see that once the clients or the other party starts paying, then they don't stop paying. Like recently, I was meeting the owner of a chain of restaurants, and they pay now. They pay the IPRS and the PPL and NOVEX. Yes, what may happen is they may request and negotiate a little. That okay, yeah, I've got 20 chains. Come on, thoda kuch better kar do. That is fine, right? But at least the habit first of getting them to pay is what these societies have done.
The music which streams in restaurants, do they not use some service or do they just play a Spotify playlist?
They're not allowed to actually, but sadly, many restaurants that you go to you will see that they are either plugging in their speakers into a Spotify or a YouTube. In many cases, what may happen is they may have procured the requisite licenses, because it's very unlikely today that a big restaurant opens in cities like Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, and the IPRS will not come. It's very unlikely because they have enough feet on the street. So, Manlo, say you have started a restaurant. First few days you played music, IPRS, PPL, Novex knocked on your door. You said, "चलो ठीक है, थोड़ा सा आपने negotiate करके." You closed it. You bought the blanket license. But now, what do you use to play the music? So that is where probably still using playlists of Spotify and YouTube is a more convenient option. So it may be wrong to assume that just because somebody is using a Spotify playlist plugging into the speakers, they may not have purchased the licenses. It may be more of a convenience thing as well. But in most cases, I know because it's still a growing market. The IPRS had done a survey, and I think even it matches with Hooper's numbers that the compliance is probably in the range of 1 to 2% right now. So, that gives some idea that in most cases, what
Any public venue which is playing music is supposed to get the license.
100%, absolutely,
Okay.
you
Okay.
can't get
What
away
about
with it.
for a private party at my home?
In your home, again, the best solution will be checking out these platforms itself. But I think there is a certain minimum number that is used to define what is a gathering. I think if it crosses that number, then it is sort of considered to be a commercial event. For example, you could have a massive Sangeet at your home, say in Delhi. I myself have done shows where hundreds of people are in the backyard or the garden of, the businessman. Now they have to procure the license. So I think they have used some kind of metrics, but again, I'm not the best
Got it.
uh,
Okay.
guy for
Okay.
that.
Okay. So I want to put that 780 crore number in some context. You said IPRS generated 780 crores of revenue. What is the TAM for music? Like how much comes from YouTube? How much comes from Spotify for this industry? How much comes from, what are the different ways in which this industry is earning?
This industry is earning from, yeah, let's break it down into three areas where the industry is earning and one area where probably the industry is not earning, where we come in. So the first large area where the music industry relies on is YouTube. um, Typically in India, 1 to 3 paise, maybe 4 paise per stream is what they get. Um, if the music industry is right now, let's say in the range of 3,500 to 4,500, say 4,000 crore, it would be fair to say that YouTube is probably contributing close to half of that. But again, I may or may not be super accurate. We need to check with individual labels. Nobody really breaks down their numbers, but YouTube is one of the biggest sources of revenue. The second large source of revenue is audio streaming platforms. Out of those, the two big ones are Spotify and Apple Music. Unfortunately, in India, some of the streaming platforms did not sustain and survive. Ghana, for example, or a Wink, and more recently, Hangama, they were not able to compete. But there is enough revenue coming in from all of these sources. The third large source now that is coming in is becoming the IPRS, PPL, and Nomex. So, for a lot of these labels, the revenue from royalties collected from the public performance or live uses of their music is becoming a large source of revenue. The fourth revenue stream that is now coming in is synchronization, both in a micro and macro space. So, micro licensing is the usage of a track in a digital format. When a brand like a Zepto or a Mintra creates a reel and is synchronizing some music with a visual to sell products, that is a very big source of income. Typically, that revenue does not come to them from the deals they have done with social media platforms and so on. Um, so micro sync and even macro sync, where a song may be used in the context of television or a film show, a film or a web show, is synchronization. So that is the fourth source of revenue. Uh, the entire size of the Indian music industry in terms of recorded revenues, I'm not talking about live performances, is in that range of 4 to 5,000 crores. So that is where we are at. We are less than $1 billion dollars right now. And that is exactly where all the record labels, folks like us, are trying to figure out how can we just sort of increase the size of the pie.
So this sounds very small, right? 4 to 5,000 crore. India is such a massive market. What is the Bollywood market like? How much does the film industry make as a whole?
Oh, we should check these numbers. I myself haven't seen them in a little while. Uh, my problem with the music industry, and the reason why I feel this industry will be, or rather is struggling and is much smaller, is that in the last 10 odd years, the unit economics have been completely wiped out from this industry. There was a time when the cassettes and CDs were sold that it was a straightforward interaction between the end customer and the producer of the music. Just like any other product, let's say if we rewind the time when we were in school or college, we liked a certain album, we discovered it maybe on the radio or television and so on, and then we went to the music store and bought our favorite CDs and cassettes. uh, then came an era of piracy, I think around about 2003 when Napster came, and then all the way till about 2010, 2009, 2010, when people completely stopped buying any kind of physical products. Right? And 2008 or 9 was the fag end of the CD era. Post that, there was no intermediate gap. There was straight up a transition between that and the tech giants that came in from a YouTube to a Spotify, where it is a subscription model. You pay something and you can listen to anything and everything you want to, right? So unfortunately, the unit economics went away completely. Labels that previously had the might of distribution and an ability to advertise and sell products now suddenly became B2B companies where, okay, if I have to make money as a label, I just need to have a great deal with a YouTube or a Spotify. uh, I have completely lost my ability to sell anything to the end consumer. So the only way for me to make money is to exercise my clout as a label, go to a YouTube, Spotify, and say that if you don't pay me my 100, 200, 300 crore a year, I will not put my catalog. By the way, as the platform started becoming bigger and bigger, the labels also started losing out on their clout, because tomorrow, if I as a label threaten a YouTube that, hey, if you don't pay me 300 crore, I will pull off my catalog from YouTube. Whatever YouTube says, okay, you know what, just go ahead and pull it off. Uh, no label today wants to not be on a YouTube or a Spotify. So what started happening was, in the beginning, there was a sugar rush where, they started getting a lot of money from platforms. That has started to sort of taper down a little bit. Where the industry has found itself is a space where, one, they are not directly connected to their end consumers now, apart from maybe a channel on YouTube where they have subscribers, and sure, they could probably get 3 paise, 4 paise, or whatever it is. That has also historically kept coming down. YouTube earlier, which was paying 10 paise per stream in India, today barely pays about 1 to 2 paise a stream. The payout per stream is not in your hands. YouTube will say, look, I've got 20 other forms of content. I've got stand-up comedy, cartoons, sports. Boss, you will end up getting what my algorithm decides, or what advertisers are willing to pay. The same for a Spotify. 2021, when we were distributing songs, we were getting paid about 7 paise for audio distribution. It's probably now gone down to 3 or 3.5 paise. So the music industry has, for the lack of a better word, now found itself just a little clueless as to how do we sell directly. And now you are sort of limited to what your B2B partners are willing to sort of shell out. And this is going to further get complicated now that AI has come in and AI is creating songs on its own. You'll find a lot of labels a little shaken or disturbed, saying, hey, where do we go? Even independent artists, for that matter. Why Hoopr has found backers in this entire ecosystem is because what we are trying to sell is a license to brands and influencers, with a simple model that, instead of a platform being made responsible for this payment, the person who uses the music to create content should be paying for it. And I think somewhere that has found great resonance with the labels, who again want to get back to the model where, yeah, you listen to something, you pay for it. And there should be some unit economics to this entire thing. So with us, it's simple. If we charge, let's say, 100 rupees for a micro sync, the end user, which is the influencer or a brand, is paying for it. We split, let's say, 50 or 60 rupees with the label or the artist, and we keep the rest as platform commission. It is a simple model. So I think that the music industry has struggled in creating a good model for itself, and which is why we are all paying the price of now having to wake up and sort of smell the coffee.
So you are at Hooper essentially monetizing the creator economy for the music industry. Like headline of what Hooper does would be something like that, like allowing creators to use music in a licensed manner for their reels or whatever videos that they are uploading.
Mostly for reels in the scope of branded content. Because reels otherwise on Instagram as a user generated content currently is a free model where labels have done deals. and anyone can just pick up a piece of music and create a reel. But yes, in the context of commercial or branded content, that is there. On YouTube, anyone who's creating a long format YouTube video is using a license for a track that they're purchasing from Hoopr.
But not for YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts, again, YouTube has done a deal with the labels.
YouTube
Similar.
Shorts also, if it is branded content, they're buying licenses from Hoopr Smash.
Okay. So the Instagram, YouTube, it's in their interest to have user generated content. So they don't want to put friction for people. Therefore, unless it's a brand, Instagram is paying the label something, some paisa for you to use their music on your reel.
Instagram is paying all the large 15, 20 labels a yearly fee for allowing them to put up their music for unlimited usage by their users. You absolutely identified it correctly. They want minimal friction, and they know that the labels together would constitute 60, 70% of all the popular songs. So they would now, by paying an upfront fee, make that available. The sad part over here is that the large part of the independent artists get sold for peanuts because they are not getting paid anything by Instagram, but their music is available for being used. Under the, I would say, uh, you could say the only thing that the artist gets in return is the promise of being discovered, saying that, look, if you don't have your music on Instagram, people will not make reels on it. So today, even if I'm not paying you anything, you should have your music on my platform for free, because tomorrow 100,000 or 500,000 reels could be made, and you could get your shows. As an artist who has been there, as an independent, I would say that artists will take that deal. Uh, it's a long way away from Instagram probably paying for every single track, or again, Instagram telling its users that, look, I have paid enough on behalf of you guys, and possibly now you should start shelling out maybe 1,000 rupees a year or 2,000 to access this library unlimited. If that happens, if the music industry is able to let go of its short term greed of getting those minimum guarantees, and if all the labels unite and tell an Instagram that, look, your users are having a blast over here, they're creating reels uh, endlessly, and there are, as per the last stat I saw, there are probably some 30-40 million reels made daily in India alone, which shows that people love making it. Now, if for this entire function of being able to make unlimited reels, end user pays about 1,000 rupees, the music industry will be in a very, very different place. But again, for that, the industry needs to be cohesive. And that is tough, because today one label gets a large offering from an Insta, they'll say, you know what, I've got my money. So, yeah, I'm out. And that is where it's like everyone looking for themselves has led to the industry short selling uh, itself as an industry.
So, why did you make the switch from being a music director, being a creator, to being a founder of Hooper?
By 2015 or 16, I think 16, I had started feeling that, okay, I have been doing music for the past 8 odd years. My album came in 2008, so it was 8 odd years of creating music as an individual. um, I started feeling that there is something more to me, and I probably my purpose is a little different in life. Like I have to build something for this ecosystem. 2015 say, I think, ये start हुआ मेरे अंदर that I was using YouTube, I was using distribution services, and I felt that why can't I build something like this, given my background of engineering, my MBA, and now my investment of 7, 8, 9 years in this industry, where I deeply understand every facet of this space, right? But I did not have the thrust or the push to take it seriously. So many people used to meet me. I remember back then that you join us as a founder, and I used to just say, "Nahi." I think 2016, I met some of my batchmates who had started creating businesses basis their passion. So Anshu Sharma, I remember he had just built Magic Pin back then, and many of us saw the app, and we were very fascinated because this entire bit of local and hyper local stuff was something I had not heard of. But Anshu seemed very passionate about it. Ashneer was getting into the space of fintech and so on. So there was this thing that, yeah, yes, your passion can be converted into a business. Even then, it took me almost a year and a half or 2 years more. 2018, when I started G Sharp Media, I said, okay, I need to start a business. And it was not a tech play at all. Initially, I started, you could say, an agency or a services business where I offered brand solutions, where songs would be placed in large brand campaigns. And I also collated about 100 odd artists and told them, look, uh, आप सबके पास ओरिजिनल गाने हैं, you are struggling to pitch them to producers and brands. I am one of those slightly enterprising guys who goes and meets multiple people. Why don't I take our entire bank and go out and pitch it to different folks? So essentially, what Hoopr does today in a platform-led manner, I had started doing in an offline manner, and I got a good amount of success in those years. And that business was Songfest. Even when I started Songfest, I went and met folks like Anshu, Ashneer, and told them, that my business start kar raha hu. And many of them helped me with just fundamentals of what a business is, because I was so far removed from it, Akshay, as a music director, that I needed help and guidance to just understand वापस PNL क्या होता है, and how do I hire people and so on. I think the desire to build tech led started coming in even stronger when I met Meghna. So Meghna had worked, my co-founder Meghna had worked in a startup called Hubilo as a founding team member, and that was an event tech company, still is, and she had the ability to build products and deeply understood the processes it takes to build products, working with engineers, right from the say UI UX से start करेंगे, एक MVP बनाएंगे and so on. I think when I met her, everything transitioned कि यार, if she knows the mechanics of it, I know the vision. Now we could possibly do this together, and that sort of crystallized post COVID in 2021. During COVID, what turned out to be a huge accelerator for us, two, three things happened in the same span, time frame. The first was Instagram introduced Reels in 2020, and a lot of brands by then, जो TikTok पे भी थे in India till it got banned, started creating digital videos on Instagram. We found a lot of our songs being used by brands without our permission, no credit, no payment, and I particularly as an artist was deeply irritated with that, because otherwise I was used to being paid for all of this. When we spoke to the brands, they said, nahi ye, you know these are digital reels and I cannot pay you 5 lakh and 10 lakh for it. I don't know, it's just very small budget thing. I will not name the brand because they are a client now, but one such brand के साथ मेरा काफी हुआ था, मैं भिड़ गया था उनके साथ, because they had used one of my tracks in almost 6 to 7 different uh, videos that they made. And at one time they had also used language like chalo ukhad lo jo ukhadna hai and so on. And I told them that in that case I will take you on, because boss, I'm also an educated guy, मैं ऐसे छोड़ूंगा नहीं. Finally they paid me 50,000 rupees and they deleted those videos after 3 months. कि we just give us the rights to use it for 3 more months, delete कर देंगे इसको. वो सब हुआ. In parallel, we were also working as Songfest with a lot of creators who were using music. They were getting copyright claims. Sometimes informal discussions with them, they used to share that I'm looking to use an epidemic sound. आप लोग भी licenses provide करो. So a lot of things
What is
started falling in.
Epidemic Sound? I think people outside the industry don't know about Epidemic. That's also like a pretty disruptive startup, right?
Yes, it is a disruptive startup. It's a Swedish company, and they are probably the largest music licensing startup in the world today, where they have a huge bank of 50 or 1,000 songs, very high quality, and they provide micro licenses for usage of these songs in YouTube videos, Instagram, and probably some of the largest creators in the world use that platform. The challenge was and still is that folks like them do not have any local or hyperlocal music as far as the Indian market is concerned. And I think over the last few years
But
in
Epidemic
India,
has like branded tier one songs, or it has like a guitar strum for the background of a video or something like that.
it does not have tier one songs by well-known artists, but it does have songs with which sound very good, like a pop song. So they've got a lot of songs with vocals in it, high quality background scores. They've got stuff like the guitar example you mentioned. So their library is in fact very good. But it's just that it doesn't have any famous. You won't find like a Coldplay or anyone there. But are disruptive because prior to Epidemic Sound, the model was always a pay per track model. Epidemic raised funds and close to 300, 400 million dollars, and they built a library of their own, and they started moving to a subscription model. So they changed the industry in that sense. um, we did the same thing for the Indian market simply because we realized that this is an underserved market. Indian creators are not able to find the kind of music that they want on Epidemic. We before even building Hoopr, writing one line of code, we met about 150 to 180 creators and close to 40, 50 brands to understand that if we build this, are they really going to buy? And we realized that they will buy only if we serve the need of that Indian element. So, in a way, we have focused on serving the Indian market. We also followed the epidemic model where Hooper, of course, has a tech platform, but underneath it is a huge library of music that we own, both the underlying works and the masters. So, we are also, in a way, you could say a label because we own a lot of music ourselves. Uh, we went to a lot of the large music labels saying, look, we have built this platform. Why don't you also put up your music on the platform, and whoever wants to license it can do it? And labels, as I have explained throughout this call, they needed those minimum guarantees, and we refused to pay the minimum guarantees. We said nahi, nahi denge. Because I also, as a person, I stand against that model. I stand deeply against the model of a minimum guarantee. It's a sure shot way of shooting yourself in the foot in the long run, because you make yourself so weak in terms of building any genuine business model. So we said, no, we would rather build a business with proper unit economics. They said, then in that case, you build the business and you come to us. And that's what we've done over the last 3 years. I think since we launched Hooper in 22, we've sold close to 125 B2B subscriptions. So we've got a 125 odd B2B clients, right from a Mintra to Marico, ITC, Himalaya, the Man Company, IPL teams, close to 18,000 content creator subscriptions sold. So Ranveer Brar, Flying Beast, Ashish Vidyarthi. And labels noticed all of that. So for me, this whole transition of building it happened in a sequential manner, doing enough of music myself. I was a academic guy before that, engineering, MBA, then did this music, then started feeling that could I do something larger than myself? Is my legacy only my songs, or do I can I create something that transforms the industry? Or because my journey is such that I should be doing something bigger. Then starting with Songfest, getting inspired by batchmates, meeting Meghna, and then moving into a tech phase. And somewhere, I think the trigger of my songs being used without my permission has always kept me aligned with what an artist goes through when their music is sort of used. And I think that is a very strong catalyst. Even today, the purpose of Hooper is to create maximum value for artists and our partners. If they succeed, we succeed. So uh, we have moved from being just a company that wants to sell licenses of its own catalogs to now working with the industry. And which is why somewhere I also still keep making songs, because I don't want to ever let go of what it is to be an artist, what it feels to have the joy of people listening to your music, the joy of somebody using your music. It keeps me very, very close to the pulse of what the music industry is. And apart from that, I'm very, very much aware and clued in about the fact that this is a very patient and a long term business. I don't think I'm doing this because I want to make a quick buck as a startup founder, jack up, let's say, and sell and exit and have fun. I've never been that kind of a person. And merely in this industry, if I create something where just the way an IPRS has today grown 15 times in revenue, and all of us have seen the benefits of it as artists, could Hooper also contribute to a increase in revenue, where artists and labels thank us saying, look, there was a pre-Hooper and a post-Hooper period. So thinking about that is what gives me the maximum joy and excitement of building this business.
So I have a bunch of questions I want to ask here. Uh, so do you currently have like Bollywood music from the labels? Have the labels come on board, or that is yet to happen?
We brought our first Bollywood label on board, which is Yashraj Films. So last to last month, when we in April, when we launched Hoopr Smash, they are the first label that is on board. And
What
with
is
that,
Hooper
we've got.
Smash? Uh, how is it
So
different
Hoopr
from?
Smash is an extension of Hoopr, where we license third-party songs, and the reason why we kept the name Smash for this product extension is because one, in a way, it provides you smash hits. When we have sold B2B licenses as Hooper, one of the constant requirements from the market is that, yeah, I need Bollywood songs, I need trending songs. Basically, I need the smash hits. So Hooper Smash provides you licenses for those. Because there is a clear revenue share with not just the labels, also the artists. In a way, it also smashes the notion that music is free, smashes the notion that for artists music से कोई पैसा बनता नहीं है, सिर्फ live show से पैसा बनता है. So there is a bit of a philosophy to that. So it is a product extension that we launched in April. The first label to come on board is Yashraj Films. um, with that, we've got close to two odd thousand songs, and we also brought in a bunch of regional labels from Punjab to the east, some Marathi music. So we've got close to 18,000 third party songs now. And we realized that we will be able to get every single label on board, but it's important to go in a phased manner where we build success stories. So you will now see YRF on the platform. In this year, we'll see probably two, three more labels coming in. And dikhega hi, Merchant Records came in, Salim Suleiman, their music has just been onboarded on the platform. 380 independent artists from the likes of a Panther, to independent artists like a Punya have come on board. Some famous artists like Diljit Dosanjh, Neha Kakkad, then Sidhu Moosewala songs are here on the platform. So it's a terrific product extension that we've launched. And for the first
This is
time, we
really
are also,
the
yeah.
like the big mainstream opportunity is this, right? Like,
Oh, it is huge. It is huge. It also comes with a lot of responsibility because now, for the first time, we are sort of answerable to our partners. And earlier, it was only our catalog, right? Now, we are finding it very exciting because new songs keep coming. So, you also have to, the programming has sort of changed a lot. Multiple languages are flowing in. So, we are now getting a lot of catalogs from the South. We'll be getting some catalogs even from other countries. So, our entire way of tagging, which was earlier pretty much manual, has now started becoming a little hybrid in terms of, and even using intelligence from what we have in Hooper to smartly programming the platform as the number of SKUs has shot up dramatically.
mm.
So that is Hooper Smash. Yes, Bollywood will be a part of it. Regional
And
films will
Hooper
be also
Smash
a part.
is again subscription model. Like you pay a monthly subscription for unlimited access.
No, Hooper Smash is in fact a pay per track model. We are going back to that unit economics theory that it is very important for us to have a very clear offering to the influencer or the brand, saying that, okay, you like, say, Besharam Rang, it's currently trending on Instagram, pay, let's say, 12,000 or 18,000 rupees for it. Uh, a certain part goes to the label, a certain part remains with Hooper as the platform fee. Large enterprises who are already our clients have requested us to try and work out enterprise packs where there is a certain volume saving if, let's say, they license 500 songs or 1,000 tracks, because there is that kind of volume of content being created by them today across different platforms. And we are in the process of trying to figure out what is the best way to do it so that the label also makes the most out of it, and the brand also sort of gets. But even on Hooper Smash, you'll see some packs. Like there is, say, a Diwali pack or a party pack, or even there are packs like, say, a D2C pack and so on, where you will probably get savings to buy multiple products at one time. But otherwise, it's not a subscription model.
Okay. That is, I mean, it's friction, right? Eventually, like platforms that really scale do so by going like Epidemic Sound, all you can eat approach, flat monthly subscription, um, or like Apple Music first used to have like a pay per song, like whatever, $1 per song. and then Spotify kind of showed the way of all you can eat models, just flat monthly subscription. um, so do you also plan to eventually move there?
Historically, this entire bit of a brand using a song has been a very standard function in labels, and it's called a sync. And I'll have to tell you why we have to understand where the labels come from, protect their interests too, and also try to be reasonable with brands. Synchronization fees for, let's say, today you would have seen My 11 Circle has used a song called Aja Meri Gaadi Mein Baith Jaye, and they have done a this of Aja Mere My 11 Circle Mein Aja or something like that. Or you would see Spinny using a song from Khiladi or some other film, right? Or a lot of these synchronizations happen. Farm Easy would have taken Urvasi. Typically, these synchronizations fetch the labels a massive sum of money per synchronization. So it labels are used to getting paid anywhere between 25 lakh to 50 lakh to even a crore sometimes for a hit song. For them,
And
while
this
they
is
have
for
got
TV and radio and YouTube ads.
for television, mainly for television, or
Okay.
even let's say sometimes what happens is a new movie is coming up, they may license a song to be from a previous released film to use in a certain context in the movie. What tends to happen over here is that brands are sort of used to getting paid a certain volume of money, and sorry, the labels are getting they've been used to getting paid a certain amount for these synchronizations. They've also done deals with, say, the streaming platforms or the OTT, the social media platforms, where UGC content has been sort of paid for by the minimum guarantees. But when we keep a subscription model for brands, one is you tend to assume that a Kesaria or a Besharam Rang will be at the same price as probably a song by an independent artist, because it quickly moves to an all you can eat kind of a model. Two, the labels feel deeply worried that this can undermine or undervalue a song when it comes to larger use cases. And I wouldn't say that they are wrong in that thinking. If I were in their shoes, I would have to protect it, because it tends to become a bother, some issue for them. We have also seen that in any case, the brands will be willing to pay a higher amount for these famous songs. So right now, to start with, and to get a good understanding of the appetite of every brand, we've kept the prices very reasonable, but we've kept it at an individual level. It gives us a good understanding of, one, the velocity at which the brands may want to be using tracks like these. Will they be willing to pay a 10,000, or are they coming and buying tracks only worth 1,000, 2,000 rupees? These are very initial years where understanding of pricing is also very crucial for us. Yes, there could be an angle where, and typically founders think like that look, I want to create value for myself, so let me just keep it a subscription. And but I feel that is a very dangerous way of looking at it from an industry perspective. Had I not been an artist, I would have pushed and forced a subscription model. But right now, I feel that that is exactly what the industry needs to get out of. So we've chosen a slightly different route with a paper track, paper usage kind of a model.
Okay, got it. So
But
Sync,
having said that, to add to that, I feel that if the experience of buying licenses becomes as easy as a quick commerce, right, where you go and add a packet of chips and a bottle of Pepsi and whatever it is and quickly check out, right? Today, brand managers and social media teams are creating reels on a daily basis, and it is at the time of creation when they know that, okay, I want to use this track, ye trending hai, ye use kar raha hu. If they get into that habit of quickly coming on the platform, picking up a couple of tracks, checking out smoothly, and getting the tracks to use, I think that would work a lot better. It also is very easy for us from a revenue share perspective. Some of these licenses could mean substantial revenue for artists. I'll give you an example. Abhi ITC Bingo Tede Mede. They have a ITC has a chips brand called Bingo, and within that there is another variant called Tede Mede. They licensed a bunch of Assamese tracks for promoting certain Bihu related reels that they were creating, and they also wanted to use it across different platforms. So I think one or two of those tracks fetched us about 32,000 rupees for one single license. And the artist, who was a relatively unknown artist from Assam, got paid about 21,000 rupees as his fee. And for this artist, 21,000 sitting in Assam, relatively unknown guy, is a fairly large sum of money. If I were to total his entire streaming income over the last 3 years, it would not be half of what he got paid from one microsync. Now, again, if we do a subscription model where in the end he gets 20 rupees or 18 rupees, I think it may not really help him. So in Hoopr, we have stuck to our subscription model. The original Hoopr format is a subscription model where a brand pays 40,000 rupees a year and gets unlimited downloads. Individual creators can pay 599 or 249 a month and get unlimited downloads. But when it comes to these third party tracks and especially the smash hits, we have to maintain a certain value of those songs.
Okay. So there is already an established sync industry. You are expanding that further into micro sync. So sync is when you want to advertise on TV and use music in your ad. Micro sync is when you're creating reels and also YouTube ads. Like brands often will
Absolutely. Any
run
kind
ads
of
on YouTube.
digital branded or commercial content will fall under the digital microsync. Macrosync is where a brand would want to use a song in a larger
Often
context.
the TV ad and the YouTube ad is the same. So in that case, they would the sync agreement would cover digital also.
Uh, yes, having said that, on Hooper Smash, there are two distinct categories. The first is the license that gives you the permission to use the track only in a short format reel or a YouTube Shorts video or an equivalent video on your own platform. A lot of platforms are also today putting videos up on their own app or own platform. For anything that could fall under OTT commercial, a digital. So there's a section called DVC, which is a digital video commercial, and then there is TVC, television commercial. You have to procure a license by requesting a quote, because right now we have seen that in certain cases, let's say you may get a license for a popular song for as low as 8 or 10,000 rupees, only to see that the commercial was shot with Alia Bhatt and probably went into crores. At that point in time, the music copyright holder will feel quite jilted that hey, I was completely sort of short sold here. So it is very important. So we have distinguished that entire bit into short format content, which is typically organic content in the form of reels, YouTube shorts, and in app videos, versus your TVC, DVC, OTT content is kept separate.
Is there a platform for sync deals at the TVC level, or each brand goes to the label and negotiates directly?
Currently, each brand has to go through the label. It's very cumbersome for both the brand and the label. For the brand, it is very cumbersome because they have to now call somebody from a label and initiate this deal. Most labels don't have any kind of fixed rate card. So, depending upon who the brand is, they might just quote anything. For the label, also, it's a little cumbersome because there's too much bandwidth that gets clogged. Honestly, one out of 4 or 5 conversations may end up materializing. So they also get quite fed up of the entire bit. So Hooper as a platform with Hooper Smash is a bridge between brands and labels, not just for micro sync but also macro. In fact, with our partners, we have seen that there has been a growth in the number of macro sync inquiries too. Because now, let's say earlier, okay, if an ITC or an HUL or even a large brand like a Mintra wants to license a famous song, they may be able to get to the label. It may not be very difficult. But let's say if a Guru Kripa Jewelers wants to now license a famous song and absolutely has the money to pay, उसके पास है 10-20 लाख 50 लाख भी होगा देने के लिए, but no idea of who to contact, what is the protocol. The label also has never dealt with these entities before. So, the whole thing becomes very challenging. That is where we are seeing that Hooper will play a great role in streamlining this entire bit. Similarly, giving intelligence to brands that, hey, you know what, you should be using this particular song. It might just resonate big time with your audience, is something that a platform can do versus an ad agency person just using his gut feeling and saying, okay, let's go with this song because I like it.
How do you generate that intelligence? How would you tell a brand that this is
We
the right
have a
song?
fair bit of intelligence because of Hooper, where we are able to link certain genres, moods, and BPMs to certain use cases like fashion, travel, food, and so on. Number one. Number two, we are also able to gradually on Hooper smashed study the same trends in terms of what is working for a certain, what kind of music does an FMCG company typically license, what is the ratio of trending songs to other kinds of music. We have started sending proactive mails basis all of this data to different kinds of clients saying that okay, you're an automobile brand, you should be using X, Y, and Z. Also, look, we are a music company, so we often overestimate the knowledge that another company may have about music trends. Uh, we have a huge amount of trend check that goes on in Hooper in terms of what is trending in pop, hip hop, electronic, what is the topmost songs searched on Shazam. But a company that's into selling, let's say, pet care products may just quickly go to Insta and go with their gut. But if somebody feeds them this info that this kind of music could actually work very well for your customers and could probably see a higher engagement, that is where we are now getting at. Because it's not just about being a platform where you get a copyright safe license. I think that's fine. But the idea eventually is how can the music help you succeed as a brand? How does it contribute to your strategy? Some of the brands, the more evolved ones who have sat with us, have shared with us their need scopes and have told us, look, if I'm creating 1,500 digital videos a year, I want to try and understand just the way I do with the right influencers that is the music that I'm using actually having some science behind it. Like earlier, people worked with any influencer, but gradually that it started getting a little filtered out to hey, we stand for something, we have a positioning, so should our influencers and so on. Similarly, does the music really have some kind of strategic connect? So we have a vertical called Hooper Brand Solutions in the company that currently does this in a bespoke or an offline manner. But all the learnings that we have been getting from HBS could allow us to do this in a productized manner too. So
Okay,
uh,
okay. Have
if
you
we
raised
could help
funds?
brands do that, then I think it'll be a great win. Then it'll be exciting for a brand manager to come for those kind of
Hmm,
insights.
okay, okay. Have you raised funds so far for Hooper?
We raised two rounds back in 2021 and then one in 2023.
How
Um,
much have you raised?
in 2021, our first pre-seed round was close to half a million, 3.5 crore is what we had raised. In the same year, we also raised about $1 million more. Uh, Great decision at that point in time because 2022 turned out to be a very challenging year for anyone to raise funds. So at that time, we sort of had funds. We also needed capital at that time, Akshay, because we had realized that we may have to build our own bank of songs. It was not going to be as easy to get third party tracks at that point in time because labels were asking for MG. So we built our own catalog, launched the platform in 2022. In 2023 and then early 2024, we raised slightly over $500,000 again, just about 5 odd crore.
Let me kind of end with this. People who are passionate about music may not necessarily want to follow the path of being on contract to Bollywood, but maybe more inspired by Western artists like a Taylor Swift or whatever. What's your advice to them? How should they go about uh, you know building themselves up in a smart way?
As an artist, I think the most important thing is to stay true to the kind of music you truly resonate with. Whenever we, as artists, try to be somebody we are not simply because others are doing it or it's a trend, you tend to feel a sense of dissatisfaction or a disconnect with your own music. All of us as artists would have fallen prey to this at some point in time because someone else sings like that or somebody else is putting songs like that. It's working. Let me try to be that person. But at the end of the day, across my, you know, 15, 16 plus years of experience as an artist, I can definitely say with confidence that the biggest joy comes with genuinely putting out the music you love yourself. And then you, if the music is good, you will attract your tribe, you will find your listeners and your fans. And that is where the most sense of enrichment or joy comes. Uh, it is definitely good to keep checking the trends, and I think it's good to check what kind of sounds are happening. Could that embellish my music? uh, Ed Sheeran, for example, is a great artist, and recently he's come out with a song where it's an English song. It's very much in the Ed Sheeran space, but he's used just a Punjabi flavor to create a hook, and it's blown up and how, right? But nowhere does the song say look like he's trying to be somebody he's not. Even when Coldplay did certain projects here which they shot in India, it is Coldplay at heart, right? So being true to your sound and to who you are as an artist is very important. Number one, I feel that in Hoopr over the last 2 years, 3 years, we've interacted with so many new artists. And on one side, I often do feel worried for them because there is so much talent on Instagram right now that artists are in a higher space of feeling a little insecure because talent is endless. If today I go on Instagram and I start seeing one singing video, I'm telling you there'll be hundreds of videos and all of them equally good looking singers, guitarists, instrumentalists. So there is a sense of insecurity amongst artists saying, how do I cut through? But that is exactly where trying to be authentic helps. I would say that Indian music is also in safe hands. We are currently working with a lot of artists who are very very good at Indian music. They are in fact learned, I would say. It's just that शायद इंडिया में ना I feel अक्षय वो talent हमेशा से था, but because of places like Insta and YouTube अब वो निकल के बाहर आ रहा है. Like you just get to see, oh my god, there is, it's endless. It's like an abyss of talent. We are just now doing a project with Universal Music where we are working with close to 100 different artists, and literally there is a competition ki kisko na bole, because they are all that good. And they are people who are following Western trends. Some are people who are absolutely Indian. Some are people who are trying to do something which is an Indo Western kind of a fusion. uh, it is deeply exciting. But what if I am an artist today? I would have to find what I truly like to do and stay true to that. Otherwise, there is so much noise on social media that you tend to get deeply pulled in any direction. It is a very tough time to actually, I would say, in a way, be an artist. While it's easy because you've got YouTube, Spotify, and the distribution part could be taken care of, I think the struggle is to deeply reflect within yourself and say that what do I really stand for. And my advice to any artist would be interact with your community on various platforms. It's better to have 1,000 loyal fans rather than chasing crazy numbers. Start with that, nourish that community. जैसे हम startups में बोलते हैं retention rate. So we focused on retention rate and realized that we've now crossed an 80% retention rate. So we feel good about it. Similarly, if you have loyal people, that number eventually compounds, right? So if any artist watches this, that would be my advice. And the last piece would be a smarter musician. As a musician, we tend to just get caught up in practicing our instrument and making theoretical or whatever advances in music, but try to learn every aspect of the business. Live mein kya hai? What should an artist manager give me? How should good contracts be structured? What is revenue from live shows? What is the IPRS? What is sync, micro sync? What is the Hooper? Today we meet some artists who are very inquisitive, and you know that these are a little smarter. They have created different revenue streams. What is my brand like? What should I, they think of themselves like a bit of a product. And that, I think, is the sign of somebody who, coupled with their passion for their craft, will make it big in the industry.
So, I was hoping for some more tactical advice also. Like, for example, on YouTube, you have, I think, 500,000 followers for Songfest. On Instagram, you have close to 80,000 followers. So, should young artists focus on building follower count? How does that happen? Or is your advice that if you are authentic and focus on 1,000 true fans, the followers will come automatically? Don't stress about that.
In my experience, every time I chased authenticity and put out something I truly liked, I found that people resonated with it and my follower counts grew. Uh, in fact, wherever I became a slave of my own sound and tried to just do something because my previous song worked in a certain way and I'm just trying to ape something, hoping that
You're
इससे
trying to
मेरा वो
recapture
follow
the
count
magic.
बढ़ेगा. So I think yes, from a tactical perspective, look, there are 3 to 4 large platforms that you have to be a part of. At least YouTube, Spotify, and let's take Instagram as a third platform. Uh, a good consistent presence on each of these is important. Like there is a theory which says that content, artist, and celebrity, where the first is producing consistently good quality content. Just start with that. Any kind of consistency helps your listeners tune into you because they know that there is something to expect, say, every week or every month. Even today, when you are running a podcast, if you follow a certain consistency, you will see that your listeners then believe that, okay, Akshay is going to put out something,
Yeah.
versus disappearing for 6 months and then coming back with three content pieces, then again vanishing. So the first is consistency. Uh, Even on YouTube and Spotify, both are in a way linked. YouTube allows you to put a bit of a face value to what you create. Instagram consistency is also equally important. I've seen artists that are very tactical here again, that they use YouTube for larger releases and they use Instagram for much smaller regular content than they put out. Today, artists are also not hesitant to create content that shows a side of their personality rather than just musical ability. So, showing them who you really are. If the
Life
monsoons are going on,
updates.
what does that mean to you? So people
Hmm.
get a window of what is it that this XYZ person is. And probably sitting and crafting down that, sitting making a plan that, okay, Monday to Friday, this is the kind of content I'm going to regularly put out. Maybe having a quarterly plan that I'm going to put out one big song or two big songs this quarter, and I'm going to have some smaller pieces. Not being afraid to invest also. For example, if you're doing live concerts, then investing in a DOP who travels with you, or investing in some kind of asset that makes your content stronger is something that we see the smarter artists do, and that is why they get consistent followers. Uh, from a Spotify perspective, also there are a lot of hygiene things that you must do. Uploading songs a few weeks before its release, filling up all the metadata correctly. Like most artists are lazy and they don't fill in everything. Submitting your songs for playlists, putting up pre-release, content pieces on different handles. Tomorrow, even on Hooper Smash, right? If an artist tells us that my song is apt for Friendship Day, there's a high chance that we will plug it in into the right playlists, right? So the metadata matters a lot. Um, I think all of these factors are important. Even networking and constantly upgrading your musical circle is very crucial. I have hung out at any points where I've seen rapid explosion. It was a time when I hung out with musicians who were just only talking how to become better at their craft and why are the hits, why are these songs working? What could we do different? It makes you think and go back. So if you're sort of stuck in a rut, change your circle. Don't be afraid to hang out with folks, right? So all of these are very tactical plans, network, meet people. Uh, I would say these are things. There are a lot of artists today who are also using communities like, um, Discord and other places. They are visible. They attend conferences like an All About Music. They participate in it. Um, and I think that is the smarter musician that I feel will eventually be there. But nothing truly at the end of the day beats working on your craft. वो वीक है ना तो आप ये बाकी सब कुछ कर लो,
Hmm. Hmm.
वो नहीं होता.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
fundamentally, that your talent refining has to happen. That is the
Hmm.
core, and all of these are things that you must do today if you want to make it in the digital
Hmm.
ecosystem.
Okay. Thank you so much, Gaurav. It was a fascinating chat. I learned so much from you.
My pleasure, Akshay, entirely. Thank you so much for inviting me.